For another example of second-order differential equations, we have this one, y double prime plus y prime plus 2y equals 0. Again, we start by replacing this with the characteristic equation. And now, if we try to factor this, we'll quickly get frustrated. So let's use the quadratic formula instead. Let's say r equals the opposite of b, so negative 1 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. So this equals negative 1 plus or minus the square root of negative 7 divided by 2. Notice that we have the square root of a negative number, which is where we introduce the imaginary value I. So we can rewrite this as negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 7 times I all over 2, remembering that I is the square root of negative 1. I'm going to rewrite this slightly. I'm going to split this into two pieces, negative 1/2 plus or minus the square root of 7 over 2 times I. The reason I'm doing that is that earlier when we were going through the solutions, I wrote this down as alpha plus or minus beta I. And so we're just selecting out what's the value of alpha and what's the value of beta, again recognizing that both are fractions with 2 in the denominator. Once we notice that, we just remember that y1 equals e to the alpha t cosine of beta t, and y2 is the same thing except with the sine function. Again, which one we label y1 and y2 doesn't matter. We could call y1 the one with sine and y2 the one with cosine. It's really irrelevant. But once we've selected alpha and beta, then we know that y1 equals e to the negative 1/2 t times the cosine of the square root of 7 over 2 t, which looks really complicated, but we don't have to do anything with it because we're pretty much done. The full answer would be c1 e to the negative 1/2 t times the cosine of square root of 7 over 2 t plus c2 e to the negative 1/2 t sine of the same thing. So again, the answer looks really complicated, but we're done, so it doesn't get any worse than that. But this is the third case, the one where we have complex solutions. The notation is a little bit confusing, but the process is not that hard, just like the other ones. So for all of these problems, as long as we can solve the quadratic characteristic equation and get the values of r, we can immediately write down the solution for y.